Welcome back to the Working Faith podcast, where we take a spiritual approach to career success. I'm your host, Jalen Isley, and today we're talking about influencing others. I'm excited to introduce John Dye. He is the executive director of Skylight.org, an initiative to help the youth of the world connect to a higher power. John, we are so glad to have you on the show today.
Jalen, so good to sit across from you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, this show is all about leveraging the spiritual principles of our faith to positively impact the workplace and grow our careers. So let's start by talking about your faith journey. So we know you are a Christian. What are some of the core principles of your faith and how have they shaped who you are today?
Yeah, great question. Great question. Indeed, I am a Christian, and I think being brought up in a strong Christian home affected, number one, my work ethic. I think knowing how to work hard, work with integrity, and care for others. I think those are some of the hallmarks of, when I look back on my career, and what I hope to look back on when I retire is I treated people fairly. I assisted people as they needed it. I saw them as humans. I saw them as specifically Christ would see them. And if you can learn to do that and meet people where they're at, I think that makes such a big difference. If you can understand the situation they're in or show empathy through it, as the Savior would, I think that brings such a big difference into the workplace.
Absolutely. And you said something critical there. So just to recap, integrity and showing genuine care for people, but heightening that in the sense of not just caring for others, but viewing them as Christ would view them and meeting them where they are.
Absolutely. I really feel, and again, this is a skill set that I know I'm still working on. Any of my family would tell you that. But I think we're all working on that, right? Christ was perfect. We're all trying to emulate his example. But at the end of the day, I think trying to really understand, because sometimes we get into a work situation, a pressure cooker situation, and it's so easy to look at the faults of others or the shortcomings of others. And if we think about it from a Christ perspective, that viewpoint is, try to understand what they're going through. He often asked a lot of questions of people, right? And as we see that happen in the scriptures, in the Hebrew Bible specifically, we see that he was one that was very interested in the person first and the task at hand second. He always kept the person paramount.
Yeah, that's so true. And, your point about meeting people where they are and Christ being perfect and us trying to emulate Christ. I mean, I think that's a really great model because Christ, Jesus knew who he was, but he also knew who you were, John, and
Exactly.
so he is meeting you right where you are and able to bring out the best in you because he sees right where you are and he's not trying to make you who he is. He's trying to let his love shape and bring out the best in you. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I think that's so powerful. It seems simple, but as we all know, it's very difficult to do,
Absolutely.
especially at work. You're like, I'm responding to this situation this way. Why can't you do the same? Or why, what? So yeah.
As I think through this, Jalen, it's interesting because I sometimes see the workplace and our family lives even, as microcosms, as mini laboratories. I
Mm-hmm.
think I think I think Christ is less interested in what we do at work from a professional perspective and how much money we make and all those things that sometimes we as puny people put so much weight on. I think oftentimes he's like, this is a laboratory for how we treat others, right? How we become
Mm-hmm.
better. And are we willing to subsume our own desires or sacrifice ourselves in many cases, or our wants and our needs for others? And part of that is just showing the empathy to others that they need. So often we see so many people just jockeying for pole position in a company, right? Trying to get that next promotion or hit that next level. Where I think if we show empathy, and there's nothing wrong with that. The way you do it, though, is important. right? To remember the individual and not to step on people, but to stand on shoulders, right? Stand on the
Exactly.
shoulders of those. Because if you don't recognize the contributions of others, at the end of the day, the company won't succeed, you won't succeed, they won't succeed, it'll just all fail. But those are some of the Christ-like principles that I've seen that have really made a difference.
Yeah, I think that is awesome, especially as we talk about, trying to positively influence other people. Let's give the audience some concrete examples here. So, can you think of a time, it can be a challenge or an opportunity, however you view that, where you were in a position to positively influence others and you relied on your Christian principles to guide your behavior?
Yeah. There have been multiple, but specifically as I think through this, again, humanizing people and personifying people is the key thing. So we all go through different cycles in our professional life, right? There are ups and downs. And specifically, as I've managed people, there have been opportunities for me to have to think, my goodness, we are going to have to either cut the count of individuals that we have because the market forces at play are causing us to think through some other things, or because of performance, right? This individual is not performing the way that we need him or her to retain them. And so, specifically in the latter, there have been three times that I can think of where, you know, at at, at just at base level, it makes sense, right? From my head, it makes sense to just say, we've got to trim some fat. We've got to make sure we do that. However, after speaking with those individuals who had been previously strong contributors and digging deeper into their lives and asking those open-ended questions, trying to really understand what their life, their personal life was like, asking appropriately, right? Not
Right,
not
right, right,
breaking any HIPAA rules or anything like that, but really
right.
trying to understand. And as they
Mhm.
were willing to share, understanding that there were some factors going on in their lives that were contributing to their work life imbalance at that point, and being able to say, you know what, we can hold on. We can hold on as a company because you're a valuable asset to us, and we want to make sure that we continue this association. And luckily, they were able to overcome those. But again, if you come at this just from a hard numbers perspective, it didn't make sense from a head perspective. The heart has to lead. When the heart leads and the person is paramount, that's when you start seeing a lot of these individualized issues and situations that you can then show empathy for and have compassion for, that make a big difference. And you know what? Every time, each time that I have had to do that, those individuals have turned out to be some of the most passionate, some of the most
Mm,
productive
mhm.
associates in the company moving forward. And they wouldn't have been that. Obviously, number one, they may not have been with the company, but number two, they wouldn't have shown that passion unless we had those strong conversations, built that trust, and showed that Christ-like compassion to them so that they could continue not only flourishing from a personal perspective, but a professional perspective as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That is great. Such a great example that so many people can relate to in terms of how they manage their teams, how they pull out the best performance from their teams and support them during those challenging times. So, excellent example there. Thank you so much for sharing that. But one thing that I know about many leaders, if not all leaders, you have to actively maintain your spiritual health and well-being so you can show up for your team, just the way you just said you did. So are there any specific practices you use to maintain your spiritual health and well-being?
Absolutely. And this will probably, to any person of faith, regardless of Christian faith or otherwise, these will sound like some of the basics. But there's it's the small things that matter. The small things done daily, in my opinion, those multiply into the great things that make a person's life. And so, number one, communication with specifically for me, God or Christ and a higher power. Being able to commune with a higher power, with divinity, is huge. So whether that for you is prayer, maybe meditation, it may be a certain form of affirmations, even spiritual yoga, whatever form that takes for you. I think being able to commune with the divine is important. You have to do that daily. You have to be able to feel that centeredness, that calmness, that peace that can come from centering yourself and communicating with the divine. So for me, prayer and meditation. Number two for me, though, is garnering inspiration from those that have come before me. Those are from holy books. Those are from wise people who are living now that have similar feelings and beliefs to what I have. And so being able to garner that inspiration, it could be a book from antiquity, but it could be one of individuals that are, again, one of your individuals living right now. So I think communing with the divine, but also garnering that community that comes from reading Holy Writ or inspirational writ is big. And then the third thing I would say is literally community. At least in my congregation, my local congregation, and I know many congregations are set up similarly based on location. My neighborhood, those of us that believe in a similar fashion, we all meet on a certain day of the week. We congregate together. We, for lack of a better term, the analogy I'll use is a fire pit, right? If you have a single log, if you light it on fire and you put it with other logs, all those logs burn brighter. But if you take that single log out of the fire and move it away, eventually the fire goes away. So I think you do need to be with other like-minded individuals who believe in a similar way, that they're willing to help your testimony. They're able to help yours. And because you're together, you're all able to feel one another's energy and power and spirit.
Yeah, I think, you hit the nail on the head with the community piece, which I think so many people take their faith journey alone unnecessarily. And it can be a lonely, and in some cases, very challenging place if you don't learn to engage and value the support of your community in fortifying your spirit. So I'm so glad you shared that and encourage other people to do the same. So
yeah, I really believe, and again, thank you for your thoughts there. I do believe, whether it's personal or even professional, right? That's why I love having a strong community at work as well. Understanding, even with different beliefs, being able to understand they're humans and they're having those ups and downs that we all have. Be there for them when they need it, and they'll reciprocate when you need it. So that's great.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Awesome. Well, it has been such a pleasure having you on the show today. You dropped some amazing gems on how to influence others from a place of faith and a place of love, to be honest with you. And so with that in mind, what's one Christian principle we could all start using today that would help us positively influence our workplace?
Yes, thank you. I've been thinking a lot about that question, and I guess this is kind of an underlying red thread throughout all my comments. But when I thought through this, I was just thinking to myself, yeah, what is one, in my case, Christ-like principle that I would want to bring more to the workplace and recommend others bring? And as I thought through that, I was thinking Christ-like compassion and understanding. I really believe when in the incidents in the Hebrew Bible where he runs into the woman caught in adultery, or other people that were working outside the social mores or the expectations of the culture of that time, he did not immediately judge specifically those that were on the fringes. He was an arms wide open individual, and I think we could all, especially with all the divisiveness in society now. We talk about, all of, political ramifications and other things that are happening. There's enough of that out there that we need to be on the side of pulling people together, building them up, not tearing them down. And so I think that Christ-like compassion is something I want to bring more, and I would challenge our listeners to bring more as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And, as you said that, when you brought up the different examples, such as the woman, with the adultery and things of that nature, like, all I could think to myself was, there's a reason why they are taking the actions that they're taking. And he took the time to speak to the person and let them know you can do things differently. Okay. You've got the opportunity to do things differently. And the reason you were taking those actions before, you don't have to continue down a particular path. Let's receive this love and think through and let that shape how you're interpreting your experience and how you decide to move forward. And when you bring that to the workplace, that same concept of there's a reason why that person is responding or behaving or engaging the way that they are, how can I show that compassion to help them reframe, reset, move forward?
Yes, absolutely. And one thing I should probably say too is compassion doesn't equal acceptance, right? In those spots, he wasn't condoning some of the behavior of these individuals. However, he first looked at the individual, tried to see them, like you said, tried to see behind why those actions were created, because it comes from a feeling, right?
Yeah,
a feeling of I don't feel included or whatever. And then he gives them a chance to step up to a higher level, to elevate themselves, like you said, to shape themselves, right? In a new way. But again, many people today would say, that person is down, let's kick him or her. And Christ is always saying, let's elevate that person.
Absolutely. 100%. I think that's beautiful. And not even just the workplace, the world could use more of that.
Absolutely. Amen. Love it.
Awesome. So I'm going to be committed to doing that. And I encourage you all listening to do the exact same and see how that not only blesses the people in your life, but blesses you, elevates you and your experience in this world. Awesome. Well, splendid. Thank you so much for sharing with us today, John. How can the audience stay connected with you and stay up to date on what you're doing?
Yeah, so I'm on all the social channels, Twitter, Facebook, Insta, TikTok. Most of those channels, I'm at Dyejo, Dyejo. You can also find me on LinkedIn. Just search under John Dye and Skylight, and be happy to connect. Would be happy to talk to anyone and assist you in your journey. So thank you.
Excellent. Well, thank you all for listening to Working Faith today. All the show notes and access to faith-based career coaching can be found at workingfaith.com. Remember to subscribe, rate, and share this show with others. I'd love to hear your comments. You can engage directly with me also on LinkedIn by visiting the Working Faith page. And we'll be back next week with more tips on how you can take a spiritual approach to your career and work your faith. Good day.